Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning Fan Show. Happy Wednesday to you all, or some of you celebrate it Hump Day. But it is the middle of the week, middle of the shorter week this go-round, as we talked about Memorial Day weekend yesterday. We're still leading the charge, Fan Nation, for a 4-day work week and a 3-day weekend all the time. Now, I don't know if that means, because I had to think about this yesterday, does that mean that holidays that would normally make a 3-day weekend less significant, less important, less special? I don't think so. I really don't. Does it mean that in turn we would get a 4-day weekend with that, and then we'd have an even longer weekend and a shorter week on those occasions? I feel like that would cause a little chaos. But if you can dream it, you can do it. I think 3-day weekends all the time doesn't make 3-day weekends any less meaningful. I don't think we're going to start wanting and waning and whining for a 4-day weekend. No. That's nonsense. And I say that being the host of a show called Football and Nonsense. I'm telling you, that's nonsense right now, Fan Nation. Don't go that far. Okay, don't church it up. Don't take advantage of it. Appreciate it. So I like 3-day weekends. I do, especially when I work somewhere that you have a 3-day weekend. Like, you know, it's not something you have to request off. Maybe you even get paid for that day, and it's nice when you do. But, you know, if you get a day off and you're not penalized for it, and it falls in conjunction with 2 other days off, I mean, that's a win in my book. So I'm very much a fan of the idea of doing 4-10s, having banks open, either split shifts, like let's do 6 a.m. to noon, and then 6 p.m. to midnight. That way, you know, we've got or 6 to 2, and then we do 5 to 9. That could work, right? I think that would be a great thing for banks to do, is have split shifts, because bank hours are ridiculous. I went on my tangent yesterday. No need to do it today. And we've got playoffs, or screw that, man. We're not even in the playoffs anymore. We've got finals for both the NBA and the NHL. That's right. The stage was set, and we got it on. Round 1 goes to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, and they lead the series 1-0 over the Washington. I almost said Nationals again. The Washington Capitals. It would help if they kind of, I don't know, maybe mixed up the names of teams a little bit, just a little bit, just a little touch. Nationals, Capitals, Monumentals. I don't know. That's what I feel the name of Washington D.C. teams would be. Is something in conjunction with what that district, because it's not a state, it's a district. What the capital would be. So there's a team called the Capitals, then there's a team called the Nationals, then there's the frickin' Wizards. Who missed? Who missed on that one? Like, who signed off? Yeah, let's be the Washington Wizards. You could have had Washington presidents. You could have had Washington founders, Washington forefathers, Washington monuments. Like, there's so many Washington things that could have continued with the theme of Capitals, Nationals, and you went Wizards. Oh, that's good stuff. You keep doing you, basketball. That's the important thing, right? Michael Jordan played for him, though. I think he owns them now. I don't know. I don't keep up with basketball enough to be able to tell you who owns what or who played for who. But I do know Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh gets it right. Pittsburgh does the same color scheme for all of its major sports teams. Pittsburgh Pirates, black and yellow. Pittsburgh Steelers, black and yellow. And Pittsburgh Penguins, black and yellow. The Penguins throws me off a little bit, because Pittsburgh Steelers, it's because that was the Steel City. And so they were the Steelers. All your steel workers were there. Pirates, I don't know what the history is there with the Pirates, but I know they've been around for frickin' ever. So maybe there were pirates settled in Pittsburgh at one time. And the Penguins, what are you going to do? I mean, of all the things that you could name a team after involving ice, yeah, Penguins nails it. But Pittsburgh? I don't know. San Jose Sharks, I feel like a team in Florida, Sharks or Gators, would make more sense. There's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have thunderstorms down there a lot, so that one makes sense. Toronto Maple Leafs makes a lot of sense. Boston Bruins, I don't know if that one makes a whole lot of sense. Vegas Golden Knights, sure. LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, okay. And the Colorado Avalanche, that one makes a lot of sense. That one probably would make some of the most sense of all of them. But, so Washington Wizards. I don't know where I was going with this tangent. We're going to get back on track now, okay? Enough foolishness from me. Headlines, here we go. Headlines, of course, this month, all month long, have been brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. I say this as I hold Ethan's business card in my hand. It's in my lovely stack. I have a fantastic collection going of business cards that I have gotten while giving out my own since starting the F.A.N show. Dynamite Enterprises. It's a card that looks almost as good as my own. Customize Your World is on the front, and Ethan's contact information is on the back. So like I said, you want to hit up Ethan, 509-723-0140, or Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, or simply visit dynamiteenterprises.com. They're going to customize and slap your logo artwork on literally anything. Like I said, I don't know if they do tattoos yet, but custom apparel, embroidery, banners, stickers, trophies, hats, shirts, socks, I think even, lanyards, any kind of promotional item you can think of, trophies, awards, you can dream it, you can do it, put your logo or your artwork on it. Ethan's the guy to talk to about it. These shirts that he has got for me are flying off my my imaginary shelf, but I'm taking more orders than what he probably can give me at a time. I visit him every week to pick up some more shirts and pay for some more. But thank you, Fan Nation. Thank you for being awesome. But anyway, Dynamite Enterprises. Go and customize your world. Great folks, and I'm going to say that he's probably partly responsible for what has been the biggest headline in Fan Show's history, just shy of winning the 2018 Entrepreneurship Award, and just shy of getting our first big sponsorship like we did a year ago, and then again through Praxis, who we'll talk about later. But May, and we have one more day of May, not even including right now, but as of today, as of before I went live on the air, May is now the new record holder for most plays, listens, and downloads for a single month, dethroning January. Oh my goodness, it was such a good, warm, fuzzy feeling. Downloads alone, there were more downloads in May than there were of everything in April. I don't know what happened in April. I was on the road a lot in April. But nonetheless, it was something that completely blew me away. So humbled, so grateful. You guys are awesome. We do have shirts for order. Please do that. Help support the Fan Show. Keep us going. But I'm looking forward to breaking another record next month. Let's do that. We do have power rankings. The IFL, it has not changed. So it goes from 6th to 1st, Cedar Rapids, Nebraska, Green Bay, Sioux Falls, Arizona, Iowa. And the reason that there hasn't been a switch between Green Bay and Nebraska again is because Green Bay lost to what is right now the best team in the league, Iowa. They lost pretty bad. But Nebraska lost under the new head coaching regime that they have there, and that's to be expected when you make that change. But they lost to the Rattlers. Rattlers got back to winning. They will play the Iowa Barnstormers this weekend. It's going to be a very, 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 very exciting matchup. I'm looking forward to it. However, there was a little bit of movement for your National Arena League power rankings. In fact, those power rankings are as follows. It goes like this. Number 6 at 0-6 is the Lehigh Valley Steelhawks. No surprise there. No change there. Number 5, the Maine Mammoths at 1-5. No change there. But number 4, Massachusetts Pirates, 5-3. They got defeated by the Jacksonville Sharks. Very close game. They dropped one spot, and Jacksonville in turn moves up one spot. Jacksonville Sharks are 5-3. They have won 4 in a row, and they will take on the Columbus Lions, who are not number 2. That's Carolina at 5-2. No movement there, but the number 1 and holding that spot for the second week in a row is the Columbus Lions, 4-1. So we'll definitely see who the top dog is after this week. Are the Sharks for real? Are the Lions for real? Is it even, can you call one or the other real by having them play each other? I don't know. But the Lions have the smallest sample size, but they only have one loss. That one loss is to the Pirates. And so the Sharks beat the Pirates, who beat the Lions, who beat the Cobras, who beat the Sharks, as far as like recently. So that's how that whole thing goes. Kind of crazy. But you know, what are you going to do? And we have a new BattleBots Weekly Top 10. That's right. I'm very excited about this. So let's go ahead and go through these real quickly. Number 10, Red Devil, down 4. Number 9, Whiplash, previously unranked. Number 8, Sawblaze, previously unranked. Number 7, Lockjaw, down 2. Number 6, Warhawk, previously unranked. Number 5, Endgame, down 1. Number 4 is Bite Force, up 3. The only one that has moved up in the rankings since the rankings started is Bite Force. The only one with 2 fights under his belt, 2 wins, 1 by decision, 1 by glorious knockout. My goodness, it was hard not to put him in the number 1 spot. But number 3 is Ice Wave, number 2 is Yeti, and number 1 still for the 3rd week in a row is the mighty Tombstone. So there are your Fan Show official BattleBots Weekly Top 10. Been very excited about doing these each and every week. BattleBots builders and fans and friends alike seem to really enjoy these as well, so I'm going to keep doing them. So once again, top to bottom, number 1 is Tombstone, number 2 is Yeti, number 3 is Ice Wave, 4 is Bite Force, 5 is Endgame, 6 is Warhawk, 7 is Lockjaw, 8 is Sawblaze, 9 is Whiplash, 10 is Red Devil. And a majority of those, I want to say, I think we've reached the point where all 10 in the top 10 won theirs by knockout. However, I have what I consider a pretty good criteria for grading these guys. My criteria is as follows, okay? Obviously, it goes for that week. Like, what have you done for me lately? The age-old question. So Tombstone hasn't fought in 2 weeks. However, you move down the list because that's not the only criteria. So what have you done for me lately? Okay, so Tombstone hasn't fought in 2 weeks. However, his performance, his strength of opponent, his first fight out the gate against Minotaur, who, if Minotaur had won, easily would be ranked number 1 as well, because those are the top 2 bots in BattleBots going into Season 3 right now. So Minotaur, dangerous bot, crazy awesome bot, and Tombstone defeated them, not even by decision, but by knockout. It was an incredible fight. So, strength of opponent, strength of victory. Okay? Those two can kind of flop back and forth. Like, there's not really an order. So, it's like, what happened this week? Okay, that's first and foremost. Tombstone hasn't fought in 2 weeks, but they're still number 1 because you move down to the next one. Okay, their strength of victory, knockout. Against who? Next one down. Against Minotaur. Okay? And where did they previously rank? Well, obviously, they're the reigning defending champion right now, Ray Billings and Tombstone. So that's 4 of, I think, my 5 criteria. I'm trying to recall what the 5th one was. Oh, and the way they're driving. Like, did they own the fight the whole time in their knockout? Was it almost too quick? Did they control the match from start to knockout? And how much was their weapon utilized? And if the weapon was a non-factor, then how good was their driving? Which is why Sawblaze is on now. Now, they won by knockout, but Sawblaze, an 8 might be low for them. I'm not sure yet. That Saw is really something. But Sawblaze won by knockout. Their strength of opponent, that might be what's holding them back right now. But just their control and their driving was really good. Jameson Go, like I said, got to get him on the show, talk to him about that. And we will. We've got Kurt Durjan On tonight, he's the mastermind behind Axe Backwards, who lost, but it was a good loss, good defeat, good death. And we'll talk to him. But yeah, so what have you done this last week? And obviously, Bite Force being in the top 5 now at number 4 has had 2 wins, one by decision, one by incredible knockout against Hypershock. I would put that opponent right kind of in the middle as far as strength of opponent. Their strength of victory, my goodness. Really, Ice Wave and Yeti are the only ones that had as good of a knockout with maybe a better opponent than Bite Force did. And so when the 5th one, yeah, it's that whole thing about their drivability, but then the tiebreaker, if there's any tiebreakers out there, are, okay, look at who's below them. Do I believe they would defeat everyone below them right now? Yes. Do I believe they would lose to everyone above them right now? Yes. So I think that Ray, Billings, and Tombstone would beat the other 9 below him, and I think that Yeti then would beat the 8 below him, so on and so forth. And with that, we are going to go ahead and finish up with headlines, bring on my first guest, go to commercial break. We've got Battlebots, another weekly segment on the way. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back right after this. You're listening to The F.A.N Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's the F.A.N Show!
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Like, Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Joining me is the man behind Axe Backwards, and that is Kurt Durjan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man.
Excellent. Glad to have you on. I see that you're one of the more active builders in the Battlebots community. It's a pleasure to have you. I know that your first fight didn't quite go the way that you wanted to, but the season is in full swing. We're moving ahead. How did you feel watching yourself on the Discovery Channel on BattleBots Season 3?
It was very surreal to actually see it on TV. Watching myself on cable, the interview, the actual fight. I don't really even remember most of the fight when I was there doing it. So going back and seeing it hit for hit kind of made me sick, but at the same time, it was just a whole bunch of emotions at once.
Yeah, no, you guys have one of the more unique bot designs because, of course, I mean, we're no stranger to drum spinners. However, for a lot of bots, it's just a part of their bot. Like with Minotaur, we've seen the damage that he's done, and that's just at what would be the front of his bot, how fast that thing goes, and it sounds like an air jetliner taking off. For you, though, you guys, it's your whole bot. What was the inspiration behind that? Why did you decide to up the ante to just make it just pretty much a weapon?
I've built full body spinners in the past in much smaller scales. I've seen full body spinners like Shredderator out in the field doing it, Megabyte doing it. Those guys have great designs. I think they've optimized their designs, and I wanted to start something that wasn't just like another pizza box drum spinner type deal. I wanted to make it massive, generate a lot of hype with just being a full drum. The wheels themselves, a lot of people have been giving us a bunch of flack about how the wheels are sticking way out, but the rims, they were solid billet aluminum. And the tires on them, they mostly were always flat in that fight. We just suffered a lot of damage to the actual tires, but it didn't stop us from rolling the whole fight. So the one wheel did break off, and that was part of the bracket, not the actual tire or the wheel itself. It was the whole gearbox and motor. So the drum itself, we decided just to go all out, be all drum, the whole thing, make it 110 pounds in the weapon, and we wanted to be different.
Yeah, and I mean, I encourage that because I know that when I talked with Zoe from Chomp a couple of years ago during season 2, and I said, your bot is very effective, but it's not exactly like the design that comes to mind when you think of what might be effective out there. But one, she's an incredible driver. I mean, you can't take that away from her. For her to be able to do that, I am very entertained by a bot like Blacksmith. I love watching Blacksmith when he's in his element, and that hammer is just a full go, and it's even got the flame. So you guys wanted to be unique, you wanted to be different. I think you've accomplished that. You mentioned the tires, which is something that I was actually going to bring up with you if you didn't, because with the exception of like Sharko and then the like full body spinners like Captain Shredderator and Gigabyte, it's you don't see a lot of protected wheels out there, and I didn't know if that was like just a detail that had gone unnoticed, or if it was something where there's not really a good method to protect the wheels without taking away from the mobility.
So there are ways to protect the wheels. In our second revision that we're already preparing for another competition, we are working on protecting those wheels, but the fight that we've had, the wheel came off. We actually did that to ourselves after Warhawk put us in the air. It wasn't the hit that broke the wheel, it was the fall. We landed on a weird angle. We never drop tested our robot, so knowing that bracket snapped off, took the whole wheel and gearbox and motor off, we decided to make some vertical supports for those gearboxes so that we had pressure for the next match and not be able to take off the gearboxes so easily with the whole assembly. But yeah, you're definitely right. The original design intent was to cover those wheels. We just ran out of time with such a short build notice. We had 5 weeks to not only design the whole robot, build it. Well, we were going to test it. We didn't have time for that. I mean, glue was like literally, and paint was literally drying on the robot in the crate on its way to Battlebots event, where we assembled the rest of it and had our first fight with Warhawk, which pretty much was the first thing it's ever hit in its life.
Oh, wow. So you guys are there, and I know for me, you learn a lot from, obviously, your initial experience. Win or lose, some people say you learn more from losing than you do from winning, but a lot of people would just rather take the win in general. So you guys, you had your first match, and of course, we're talking, about a month ago that it actually happened, and then you had a chance to watch it on TV. Was there anything that dawned on you as you're, going out the entry tunnel into the battle box that you're like, crap, we probably should have done that. Oh, well, too late now.
So there were an extra panel of lights on the back of our robot that was supposed to have the Kurtrox logo flashing on it. I think we've got the most LEDs on the robot itself. I've seen a lot of the other builders comment on Facebook and our social media. The lights on our robot were spectacular. So we did end up getting the LEDs on the front panel working with that ominous green pulsating glow that was supposed to be integrated with the weapon, so that as the weapon was speeding up, the green would change to a different color at full speed. Didn't get that integrated in time, but more importantly, we were just like, oh, the LEDs on the back of the robot didn't even work, and I don't know why, but whatever, we don't have any time, we're in the box, we turned it on. I thought we had put the software on the LEDs at that point, but we didn't. And it was like, oh well, just let it ride. So that was definitely an oversight, last minute. Wish we had that. Wish we had our team shirts with the Axe Backwards logos on it. Simple things, there's so many aspects to building this robot and getting the whole team organized and orchestrated and sponsors figured out, that we were just happy that something made it to the box that I could turn on and drive it. So I was like, LEDs, whatever, T-shirts, whatever. We're here. This is happening. Honestly, like you said earlier in the call here, the whole first fight, we got it out of our system, and then I was like, I could totally relax. I didn't really remember most of what the first fight was. I felt like production was just like, okay, go, through the tunnel. All right, wave at the camera. All right, put your robot on the floor. All right, turn the robot on. All right, get out of the box. Okay, pick up your radio. Okay, 3, 2, 1, fight. And I'm like, oh my God, what's even happening? And then it was over. Yes, we lost. It would have been awesome to win, but it was over. And you had said some people will learn a lot more when they lose than when they win, and that's really true. I mean, our robot you'll see in the next couple of fights. I can't tell you much more because of our NDA, but we do evolve it. The robot evolves. It gets better. I mean, the thing that failed this time was the wheel that flew off. It left us pretty disabled in the beginning. I can say in our next fight, our wheel never come off in the next fight. And then so maybe something else breaks, maybe something doesn't, but then after that gets fixed. And then, so as we go on, we keep learning everything. And that's just the game of the sport, right?
Yeah, and that was something I've been interested to hear more and more feedback. Now, I forget, were you a part of Season 2?
I was not a part of Season 2. Mostly our big robots were back in Robo games, probably in 2005, 2006. I took a few years to get my company off the ground and do a lot with my life, and then I started back helping the FRC guys, the first robotic competition with high schoolers, which is what I was part of in high school, as a mentor, and having all the support from them equally back and forth. I'd help them, they'd help me. I'd have some of their mentors jumping on our team and helping out with our design, and we decided to build another robot this year and actually build a big robot. But we've done the insect classes and the 15-pounders for the past 10 years to cover that gap and just stay in it, which we also run our own events, the smallbots.us events. We run those in Florida 3 to 4 times a year. So our arena's good. We keep all the small robots going and engage with our community, but it was time to build a big one, which is why we started deciding that this year it was time to do it.
Yeah, well, the reason I asked, and not that you have a lot of room for comparison, I don't know how other robot games or Robot Wars does it, but I feel like for a lot of you guys that whether this is your first or your third season with Battlebots, that the structure, the fight card and having a full season style is sort of taking a lot of weight off the shoulders in regards to, you don't have to worry about going out there and winning your first fight and then winning the next one and the next one and the next one. Like, you can take a loss, you can go back, you can recoup in the pit, you can figure out what went right, what went wrong, and how to adjust for the next one. Has that sort of been the feeling as a whole back there in the pit with the guys that are either first-timers like you or that have been around, and it's like, wow, we had a fight, and yeah, it'll count towards our season overall, but it's like I don't feel this overwhelming amount of pressure that just because we lost it, we're like out of it already.
So there's mixed reviews. Me personally, I love it. We went to FMB, that's Fighting My Bot in China, in January, and it was a single elimination competition. Now, it was 3 days, and it was fantastic that it was such a short trip, but we lost our first fight, single elimination. We were out, and luckily the organizers there were super awesome and wanted a extra fight, so we organized a rumble, which we ended up winning the rumble with our 30-pound featherweight. But yeah, that was a long way to fly just for 1 3-minute fight, and then that was it. And I was like, great, now what? So I really enjoyed the fight card system with Battlebots, just because our robot was so new, such a awesome design that we didn't even have time to test it. Basically, we got 12 minutes of fights in the box just for 4 fights. I believe every team gets 4 fights in the fight card system. Now, there were some builders, especially new teams, that were like, man, I really have to fight 4 times. I just don't know if there's even going to be a robot left after 4 fights, or I'm not going to have enough spare parts to survive for 4 fights. I'd rather just try my best. If I lose, I'm done. Can I be done after 1 fight? And it's like, no, you have to fight those 4 times and get that score, and then the top 16 move on to the tournament. So that was really, I was okay with it just because we had spares, we had parts, we had resources. Thank God to our sponsors like Pack Heating Systems. They were just able to deliver us parts right after our first fight with Warhawk, because I'm not sure we would have been able to get back together for our second fight had it not had happened that way.
See, and I feel like that, I knew that was probably going to be the negative feeling on it, was just like, man, I have these fights that, like, it's not the tournament and I have to try to survive just to get to the tournament. But at the same time, like if you look at the pros and cons for both styles, I feel like the pros for the fight card setup and having the full season are going to outweigh the pros and cons for having it be just the tournament where it's one and done. I mean, if it was a situation like you guys were in where you went and you fought for 3 minutes and now it's just like, well, I guess we go home now. I feel like that's a bit harder to take than trying to figure out how to make your bot last for 4 solid fights, because then that's kind of testing your preparation, your equipment depth, I guess. It's like having a roster for a sports team, like who's the next guy up?
Absolutely. I'm totally with you in that sense. To fly all the way out there, ship our robot out there, get this crazy machine built in 5 weeks, and then just lose our first fight and be like, well, that was not as fun as I wanted it to be. I may have just left a crumpled heap of robot on the shelf and not actually gotten it fixed. So, yeah, I'm with you there for sure on that one.
And, of course, the questions that I ask everybody on here, what's your dream matchup? And, obviously we don't want to give away too much, if anything, because I know all about the non-disclosure. But, for those of us that are keeping up and keeping track at home for the season so far, who's your dream matchup this season?
So it's really funny. On the first episode of Battlebots where Ray says, if you fight Tombstone, there is no win, really. It's an utter lose. I totally disagree with Ray on that one. I would love to fight one of the awesome old-time superhero robots like Tombstone, Minotaur, Bronco, Icewave, any of those big names that have been doing this for many years on TV. I really think as a rookie, there's nothing for me to lose. Yeah, I lose the robot, but if I lose the match, everybody expected me to lose. But if I win, I mean, it's like trying to take down a god, right? And that's something that everybody would just lose their mind if I was able to actually not only challenge them, but beat them. And that, I think, is one of my dreams. I totally volunteered to fight Tombstone, and at one point when they were asking people to see if they wanted to do that, and I don't know how many people got selected or whatnot, but I wasn't afraid. I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, whatever, bring it on. I'm here to fight. I'm here to put my robot to the test, and that's really what this is about, is to see what can survive in the box in the most harsh environment possible, which is getting completely annihilated by some unmovable or unstoppable force, such as Tombstone or Minotaur.
Yeah, and I think that was, a great way to cap off opening fight night with Minotaur and Tombstone. But it's like, you have those two, and then you don't have them again for what we're going on 2 weeks now without those two. Bite Force is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I put out my weekly top 10, and Bite Force, he's up there in the top 5 now. Has got the biggest sample size, but that knockout against Hypershock was really something. Now, I do love that there are characters in this, and according to Jameson Go, it's unintentional. Now, I will be the first to tell you that my interactions with Ray have been nothing but pleasant. He's been courteous, professional, and when I met him in person, he was like one of the nicest guys. But he plays the heel effortlessly on BattleBots, and apparently now Jameson Go is up for that role as well. What do you think you are as a character on this? Do you think you even have one, and what are some of your other favorite characters throughout the BattleBots family?
Oh man, so that's like a loaded question. It's a two-part also. Really, any one of these guys behind the scenes, and so part of this I wish they would show a little bit more of, is that anybody behind the scenes would be willing to lend you tools, parts, spare motors, speed controls. These aren't cheap things, right? You're lending somebody a $500 motor, and it's going to go in the box where if there's not going to be anything left if it loses, right? And you're not even worried about it because you just want them to see it through to their next fight because you have a spare and they don't. And I could say that about Ray or Jameson or any of those guys. Will, I think I even have like a power switch from Hypershock in our robot because I didn't have one when we showed up. And he was like, here, just take it. It gives me a $100 switch. And I'm the same way. If I had spares like an Amp-Flow speed controller or a Vex speed controller, we would let people borrow it. And if it made it back, it made it back. And if it didn't, it's like, well, he probably shouldn't have gotten hit in that spot. But I don't know what my role in all of this is going to be. I think that the way they're editing this, I don't have a lot of power or play. I know that we have a huge social media following on Facebook right now. We've got like 31,000 followers. I'm not sure if there's anybody else that even comes close to our numbers as followers. But it was all based on hype. I do believe in sharing all of our information, which is why I open sourced our whole robot. I showed pictures from every step of the way of how we built it, from a solid block with a drawing on a napkin to just machining everything on 5-axis mills and getting everything made out of billet and then powder coating everything. We really spent our time to make sure all the details were right. And I think a lot of our followers are just super engaged that way. So I'm hoping that it turns into a learn how to build a robot TV show type thing at some point for us. But I don't really know if my character can be defined yet with such little interaction on the actual big screen.
Well, I know that for me, I've been working on my own bot design since I got back from LA for the tapings, and it's not Jay Leno's chinchilla, it's not my face on the front in the form of a plow, but I feel like I have maybe a winning concept. I think it's an interesting one that makes a lot of sense, and it is attractive yet effective. So if you guys are looking for another project, another bot to build, I am taking people who want to volunteer to maybe make this thing happen. And who knows, maybe Greg and the guys will let it compete in exhibition next season. But I think just watching it come to life and have a few fights would be a lot of fun. But it's been great to watch the 3 episodes so far. I do want to see you guys succeed and do very well, because I do love the concept of your bot, and I think that Axe Backwards is hands down one of the fan favorites going forward. So, hey, Kurt, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Hey, thank you for calling me and having me on the show. I appreciate it. I love talking about our robot. I love telling people anywhere I can about what we do and how we try to do it. And I'm always willing to teach. So if anybody ever has a question, feel free to ask. I'll answer when I can.
All right, he is Kurt Durjan of Axe Backwards, Battlebots, an all-new episode this Friday on the Discovery Channel at 8, 7 Central. Kurt, you have a great rest of your night, and don't work too hard.
Thanks, you too, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving right along, because I know we fell a few minutes behind. We're going to go ahead and bring on our guest right after I talk to you about co-working, because it's that time of the show where we need to discuss businesses and supporting local. If you're in the Spokane area, there's not a better choice you can make than going to Praxis Co-working. If you want to be yourself at work, they have over 3,500 square feet available for you to use. Now, not all of that is for you, but you do get your own desk. You have a conference room, smaller conference rooms. There's a kitchenette. There's all these both professional and casual sort of leisure items that are in the space that they're renting. And of course, they encourage, they promote, they celebrate entrepreneurs. And I believe the price is $275 a month for a 1-month contract, but they are doing discounts for longer term commitments. And what you get with that is everything. You get access to all the amenities that they have there, the conference rooms, the small conference rooms, your own desk, the fun things that they do there. They have game nights, I think, once a week, which has been a lot of fun. But the awards show, like I said, they celebrate entrepreneurs. I was there. I should know. Spokane Entrepreneurship Award for Best Media went to the F.A.N show, because Praxis believes that much in not only being yourself at work and being unique and being yourself, but being the best you that you can be at work. So Praxis is where you need to go. Hit up Robbie, ROBBI, at praxiscoworking.com, and just visit praxiscoworking.com. But great individual, and of course willing to work with entrepreneurs, and just wants a better Spokane. So if you're in the Spokane area, I don't know what's taking you so long. They're on the 4th floor of the Holly Mason building on 157 South Howard Street, a 9-minute walk from River Park Square. It is a great location. I've been there numerous times, and I will tell you firsthand that it is primo real estate. So Praxis Co-working, be yourself at work. We will be right back with the founder of Lilac City Comicon, Nathan O'Brien, right after this. You're listening to The F.A.N Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The F.A.N Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Like Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I told you that this Wednesday is a special one. We're putting aside the football and all kinds of nonsense. We're geeking out over here because it's Comic-Con week, and joining me on the show, a very special guest, the founder of Lilac City Comicon, Nathan O'Brien. Nathan, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great, man. I got to tell you, it's an honor and a privilege not only to have you on the show, but that you gave me the thumbs up for media. This will be my first Comic-Con in any way, shape, or form. I have never attended a Comic-Con before this one, and very excited to do so as media and be part, have the Spokane one be that first one.
Oh, awesome. I'm excited to hear it, and also thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, and I gotta say, there's so many cons out there. I mean, there's like Wizard Con, Dragon Con. Of course, I've, like many people, tried and failed to get to the San Diego Comic-Con, which is kind of like the mecca of Comic-Cons, right? And then Emerald City. Yeah. Seattle has theirs, which is a close second. Rose City, the Portland, Oregon Comic-Con, has a good lineup. But, you've done very well for yourself, and I wanted to know, how does one even decide, I'm going to start a Comic-Con?
It's a good question. Well, I'm from the Seattle area originally, and when I moved to Spokane in 2006, in the middle of the summer, I was like on a mission to try to find, when's the next show, because I was kind of spoiled over in Seattle with Emerald City, like you mentioned, and a lot of other indie shows in the Northwest that it seems like there was one every other month. And so when I reached out to the local comic book shop here, they laughed at me because they're like, we haven't had a show here in over 13 years.
Wow.
So that really inspired me to do research and talk to some other people, including the showrunners at Emerald City, for some tips and tricks, and just started taking the ball and going with it.
Wow. Was this Spokon originally, or was that something different?
No, that's something completely different. Originally, our show was Spokane Comic-Con, and we actually predate Spokane as well, because ours has always been a comic book and pop culture celebration. Spokane is another show, but it is focused on fantasy, science fiction, writing, and gaming.
Okay, because I remember I attended, what was it, The Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight, and Batman was standing outside the AMC theater handing out flyers saying, go to Spokane. And I was like, what? What is this? So,
yeah.
Lilac City Comicon, I feel like, is a fantastic name. It gets right up there with Rose City, Lilac City, so it's keeping the theme of the bigger but not biggest city themes kind of going. But you guys got Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk, who, adding on to my already feeling overwhelmed about this being my first con, the Hulk is my favorite comic book character, and so for the original Hulk to be there, I mean, how many emails and phone calls did that take?
Well, I had the privilege to meet him a few years ago when I went to San Diego Comic-Con. I've been there 5 times, and I met him one year, and that was at the time. That was probably, I guess, 5 years ago when I first met him, and to this day, I mean, he's still larger than life. He is the Hulk. I mean, Mr. Universe. I mean, he's giant. He's a giant man, and still in incredible shape to this day, and just a super, genuine, humble person as well. And so it was just one of those people that I talked to a lot of people year after year and keeping in touch with, and just hoping that one year their schedule will be available for them to actually come to Spokane, and this was the year.
Now, you guys got a pretty good lineup. You have the guy that played Boba Fett in Star Wars. You have some really great animators that I checked out when I see these things get posted. Obviously, Lou Ferrigno is going to be the major attraction. Who is your white whale that you really want to get at a Comic-Con, either realistically or pipe dream at this point? Like, who's your guy?
I mean, can never go wrong with, Stan Lee, because, he's,
yeah.
He's getting up there, but he's also, like the grade A, cost that comes with that as well. And I don't think our show's quite there to be able to afford that. But like as far as like comic book wise, there's an artist, Jim Lee, that's been around for quite a few decades, is a mainstream artist, but he's also one of the main publishers now for DC Comics. So he kind of wears two hats, and he's a big deal in the industry. And I would just love to have someone like him come to our show. But he also does very few shows as well, as being a co-publisher as well of a comic book company. He's kind of a hard man to track down. But I have met him too, and he's a gentleman.
So we're past the 10-year mark here as far as how long you've been doing this. You mentioned 2006. Now, you had been to several Comic-Cons. You've been to San Diego 5 times, and way to brag. And basically, when you decide, okay, I'm going to give this a go, I'm going to do my research, like what research does that include? I assume you had to know somebody already kind of in the gig that maybe gave you some pointers, or was this like starting from ground zero?
It was a combination of my history of going to a lot of cons, between obviously San Diego being the granddaddy, going there. I've been either attending or exhibiting as a freelance artist at Emerald City since year 2, and they're a few years ahead of me. They're on year 16 right now. So I've been going there, the Portland shows and stuff like that. But then talking with the former owner of Emerald City, he did it for, I think, at least 13 years, Jim Demonakos. And he was excellent. Him and then his partner, Brian Meredith, who actually puts on the Jet City Comicon in Tacoma, which is an indie show. And they're just great guys, and they gave me a lot of tips and made me think about things that I probably wouldn't even have conceived.
So what's the hardest part about making one of these things happen? And I assume maybe it's gotten easier over the years, but probably maybe there's still, each year has its own challenge, or maybe there's that one challenge every time.
There's always X factors that you think aren't a big deal, or you think you maybe have a grasp on. The biggest challenge year after year, as the show continues to grow and we look to add more talent to attract more people to come, is always dealing with agents. Hollywood agents is a challenge. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh man, don't I know it? I've spoken to my fair share of agents and managers over the years, and you know what's funny is that a majority of my big acts that I've gotten on the show, were just by sheer happenstance. I tweeted at them and they responded, and now I'm working directly through them. But there's been a few agents and managers that have been more than happy to help, and very up for it, very open to it. Then there have been some that it's almost just like, how'd you get this email? Well, it's listed on your website, so I started there.
You can find out right away on how much they actually give you the time of day, and if they'll actually answer your questions, whether they're going to be someone you can work with or not.
Yeah. I want to know who's been the most difficult to work with, as far as not them specifically, but their agency or their management. But I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. But I assume that there has been one, obviously, that probably sticks out in your mind, though.
Well, I mean, it's nobody I'm going to name by name, but it's just funny that sometimes I have better experience and maybe you do too, that when you're able to just deal with somebody directly. That way you can get the questions answered. You can talk to them like, a human being one-on-one, versus send an email, wait for the reply, and then maybe they answer, one of your 4 questions.
So in your mind, if you had to look back, how far has Lilac City Comicon come, and what was probably the turning point for you? And was there a year that you thought, I don't think there will be, a 2000 whatever Lilac City Comicon?
Well, I never envisioned it going more than 5 years. I mean, I just was trying to set up a 5-year plan, and let's just see where it goes. But every year, it's grown exponentially year over year. And it's always trended positive every year. So, for example, 2007, the very first show, we had 18 exhibitors in a small banquet hall, and we had 300 people in attendance. And then every year we just continued to add 200 more, 400 more, 500 more. Every year just kept going up and up. And the biggest year was 2015, when we were able to move from the local community college to the convention center downtown. And that year, we went from 2,000 people to over 4,200 people in 1 year.
Wow.
And that just exploded, and that blew away my expectations, because having, 200 to 400 people, increase every year was totally fine, and that was kind of the trend, and I was happy with that. But then to double the attendance in 1 year just was insane, and then it's really just springboarded from there. So over 4,000 people, over 5,000 people, over 6,000 people last year. And with, advanced ticket sales and having bigger guests this year, I would anticipate, be over 7,000 this year, if not more.
Wow, that is a crazy accomplishment. Doubled what your goal was, which I think, tip of the cap to you. It's been an incredible accomplishment. And yeah, the convention center, like if you can break through that ice, like then you're pretty much in good standing. Now you have to own up your end of the deal, obviously, but yeah, that's where it's at. That's where you want to be. Have you cosplayed before?
It's not really my thing, just because I don't like being, hot and sweaty unless I have to, playing a sport or on the beach or something like that. But I always had a fondness for the classic, stormtrooper costume. I felt if I ever was going to cosplay, I'd probably do that. But overall, no. I wear what's comfortable, and I admire all the great costumes that people wear and work hard on all year round.
Best cosplay you ever saw at the Lilac City Comicon?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Last year, every year the level of cosplay just goes up time after time. And last year we had over 100 people participate in our costume contest on Saturday, which was bonkers. There was one in particular that was super cool. This great girl that lives here in town, she made her own homemade Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy cosplay. She made it in her little tiny apartment. And took her all year to make, but she took like PVC pipes and she cut them and she painted them brown and glued them together in sections, and she stood on stilts. She was over 7 feet tall. Wow. She had a voice changing box that said like "I am Groot" in like 5 different expressions, and she couldn't get more than 2 feet. It probably took her all day to get across the show floor because everybody wanted to stop and get a picture with her. And eventually I got a picture with her, but it just blew my mind that, yeah, you see, group masks or people, wearing a Chewbacca costume, but this was something she made 100% from her, by herself, and it was really impressive.
Now, I saw your Facebook, and I got to say, it was like looking at mine from the outside in. It's comics, football, comics, cat photos, comics. The mascot is a cat, and I wanted to know if there was any sort of significant story behind the Lilac City mascot. I forget what the name is. It Comic Cat or
it's Sprocket the Comic Cat.
Okay, Sprocket the Comic Cat.
Yeah, so he's loosely based on my cat, which is an orange and white tabby cat. In real life, his name is Edward. We call him Ed for short. But then in the comics, he turns into like a Superman type superhero cat that protects Spokane, and his name is Sprocket. We did a contest for people to come up with names, and we had a lot of great names. And then for the last 5 years, we've done a Kickstarter where then we've self-published an all-ages, kid-friendly comic book starring Sprocket. So this year is our 5th and final edition that'll be on sale at the show. But then after that, we're going to change our approach, and we're going to look to do more charitable funding instead of doing a comic.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I'll have to get my copy of Sprocket, the comic cat that saves the city of Spokane. Now, you mentioned that your dream for Lilac City was to be a bit more pop culture based, like you see with obviously, San Diego Comic-Con and just all the different markets that they've tapped into. Now, you're a sports fan, and obviously there's some local sports around here. Have you tried to get any professional athletes to come and stop by, maybe do a booth or an appearance? Like, I don't know how well that's received, but clearly you're a person that appreciates all of it, so I didn't know if that had been something that you considered.
Oh, definitely. I've thought of doing that, whether it's at this show or just doing a completely different type of show, or even just a simple meet and greet. I would 100% be down for doing something like that. I've talked to a few, former Zags here in town, to see maybe if any of them be interested in doing signing, and just some of their schedules, don't work out. I tweeted. I've been tweeting that. Oh gosh, I feel terrible. I'm drawing a blank. The punter for the Seahawks.
Oh, John Ryan.
John Ryan. Gosh, I don't know why I blanked there. But I've been tweeting at him to be like, come over here and do a signing. It'd be a lot of fun. But I'd be down for it.
For that, you need to just reach out to the comedy club, because his wife is a comic, and he did a video. Yes,
that's where I saw that connection.
Yeah. So I'm sure they'd be happy to help. I work with the comedy club for a lot of stuff, so I'll follow up with them too and be like, hey, we should totally make this happen sometime. But it's been great to see. Obviously, it's been around for a while, but it has caught my attention more and more and more. And I was like, if I'm going to finally do the Comic-Con thing, I might as well let Spokane be the first one. I can go and geek out anywhere, but why not be a part of a Comic-Con for the first time in Spokane? And now you've got even bigger news, big announcement that you're doubling your efforts. You're growing and expanding over to Coeur d'Alene for Lake City Comicon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're taking the Nestea plunge, and we're going to do a second sister show over in Coeur d'Alene on October 20th. It's going to be kind of a back to basics show, a one-day show. We're going to still have 100 exhibitors, but we're going to be really trying to focus on local artists and local businesses. We're still going to have some guests in there, but it's going to be smaller in scale. So essentially, it'll be like an appetizer to hold people over before the next Lilac City.
Now, I know it's October, and that can be a beautiful time of year, but is this going to be outside like so many other of Coeur d'Alene's events, or do you have an indoor venue?
No, it'll be completely indoors.
Okay.
Come October, you don't know what the weather's going to be like.
Very true. All right, well, Brian...
It'll be indoors at the Coeur d'Alene County Fairgrounds there.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's a good spot. And Brian, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and talk all about Lilac City Comicon this Saturday and Sunday. Cosplay costume contest is Saturday. You won't want to miss it. Lou Ferrigno and many, many more. But Brian, fantastic job. Great work you're doing. Very excited to be a part of it. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard.
Hey, have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right, that does it for our Geek Out Wednesday, if you want to call it that. But that was a lot of fun talking with Nathan O'Brien, founder of Lilac City Comicon, and then, of course, Kurt Durjan, the man behind Axe Backwards, for our third installment of the Season 3 weekly BattleBot segment here. Don't forget to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter, @Fan Show Official. And we're over 800 likes on Facebook. Thank you, guys. Thank you, people of Fan Nation. We set a new record for listens, downloads, and live listens with the month of May, and we still got this episode and tomorrow's before May is even over with. So that record is going to be quite the record, and it's going to be tough for June to break. But I think June can do it, and if not June, maybe July. We'll see what the future holds. But follow Fan Show on Instagram as well, simply The Fan Show, and there's Snapchat as well. You can subscribe to the podcast if you can't listen live, and that is iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Rest in peace, WBLZ. But if you can listen live, thefanshow.com is the home base for all things football and nonsense. And then, of course, Spreaker.com/user/thefanshow. So we will be back tomorrow night with our last one of the week. Rob Storm, one of the executives of the National Arena League. And then we'll have one of the Pirates players making his debut on the show. And that's a little hush-hush, a little surprise for you. But we will see you same Fan Show time, same Fan Show place tomorrow night. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.